Just waiting for a few people to come on. I'm really excited. This is a video I've wanted to do for a long time, and I just felt like I would finally do it now. Hoping this thing is working. It's not showing anybody coming online, which means it may not be working. Okay, perfect. There's a couple people present. So I wanted to talk about this idea of the telephone game, the absurdity of how we, as a potentially advanced species, that the way we process information, the way we receive information, the way we process it, and the way we express it is so, and excuse me if I'm judgmental or really, if I offend anybody here, but when you think about what it is that we actually are and the way that we receive, process, and express information, it's really juvenile, but not in a child-esque way where our innocence and our awe and our wonder is totally just boundlessly radiating from us. It's more of a childish way where, I'm right. I know I'm right. I know this is the way it is. And so many people do this. I've met people in their 70s and 80s who still do this. So let's look at kind of where it all began. And I'll start with that began for me because, most of us have been institutionalized. We've all been subjected to doctrinations, to belief systems, to ideas, to ways of life that were never ours to begin with, but they were very specifically um, instituted into our thought processes so that we could become the products, the end products of a corporate hierarchy where we would essentially sort ourselves out through high school and maybe move on to college if we were that lucky, or if we ended up in the resource center working with our hands or whatever. Essentially, the whole point of being institutionalized into these public school systems as young kids is to, and getting us competing with each other and all this stuff instead of cooperating with each other, instead of learning how to love one another for our differences and how these differences can all work together to create a greater whole. We were taught the opposite. We were taught how to fight with each other, compete with each other, how to size up the other one, put the other one in order and say, yeah, right. Like, I'm better at you than this. Okay, maybe you're better at me than that. And just this whole super competitive thing that is total bullshit when it comes to the coherence that the physical universe is made out of, that the earth is made out of. And so what we have been indoctrinated into is, something that most of us didn't catch. We didn't catch it. It happened, we bought into it, we believed it, and we allowed it to form our sense of personality. And I'm going to do questions and answers for everybody who wants to go deeper into this at the end. But we allowed all of this institutionalized thought that had been, projected onto us to make up the core fundamental identity of who we believed ourselves to be in this 3D physical world that most of us believe to be the apex of the evolutionary example of evolution in its glory. Like, we believe this world is it because that's what we were told. But it's interesting for me, this all really lovingly and wonderfully came shattered apart when I was in a fourth grade, or maybe it was fifth grade, social studies class where the teacher said, all right, we're going to do an experiment. It's called a telephone game. And for everybody who doesn't know what this is, essentially the teacher told the student that was in the front row, whatever, something. They told that student something. And then they told that student to tell the student behind them, and then that student to tell the student behind them. And so by the time this story or sentence or whatever, a couple paragraphs made it around the room, the quote unquote story that the last kid recited had nothing to do with the story that the teacher told the first student. And this just blew my mind because I was like, this is in social studies class, mind you, because I was like, wait a minute. If the quote unquote truth, right, what the teacher said, the subjective truth, which wasn't subjective at that point, it was okay, it was the truth. The teacher's saying it must be real. This is what they're teaching us. So I believe it. But it shattered my illusion of what I thought reality was composed of, because what this teacher who was teaching us social studies, history, the history of the world, what they said to that first student had altered so dramatically by the time that the last student got to it. And this happened all in less than 20 minutes. I mean, it wasn't even the same story at all. It was a completely different story. And so it shocked me. It kind of blew my mind. And I said to the teacher, I was like, what about world history? What about all these things that you are teaching us? If you're saying that these are true, how can you know they're true if this story that you're reciting to this student that got totally converted into something else, if it changes that fast, then how can we know anything about human history or how we got to be here or who got here? Like, and he's like, oh, no, that was just the game, just to have fun, for something to do. And I was like, no, it's not. I was like, think about it. I was like, this changes everything. This means that nothing you have been teaching us is truly based in fact. It is all based in a subjective interpretation that is hand me down, that is recycled from somebody who got the information from somebody else that had it recycled to them. And I was like, there's no way to know if any of it is true. So essentially, we're just taking stories and telling stories to other people and embellishing them, adding our own perception, our own subjective interpretation of what we think that story is. And we have been doing that, and it just melted me down. I couldn't even deal with it. I was like, oh my God, nothing that this system that has institutionalized all of us has been teaching us is real, or there's no way to know if any of it is real. And I was devastated because I was like, it just shocked me. I was like, my God, nothing they are saying to us makes any sense. Then why are we even here? Like, what have we been put here for? And really, it's very simple what we were put there for. We were put there so that we could be bred, so that we could be conditioned, so we could be trained and taught how to find our place in the hierarchical corporate pecking order that is the predominant way of how our species lives upon the face of this planet. And I don't know about you, but the way that we have been living on this planet is fucking arcane. Excuse my language, but wake up, wake up, look at what we are doing. And everybody thinks, hey, it's normal. I'm just going to go to work. I'm going to drive my car. I'm going to do this. I'm going to buy my house. I'm living for the American dream. I'm going to make all this money. And this is in Western industrialized cultures where we can do that. What about all the poor places where they can't do that? They aspire to do it, even if, they get little bits of it. They hear all, oh, be like America, the American dream. This way of life is not harmonious with the natural rhythms of this planet or the galaxy or the universe. But even more importantly, it's not in alignment with the natural rhythms of our body. And so this is insane. This is pure insanity. And why would we keep living in a way that we consciously become aware is so disproportionately out of tune with the natural world, which makes up the bulk of what is really going on, okay? All the human buildings, all the human businesses, all the human corporations, all these things, as significant as they are on this planet, they're like this big, okay? And who we are in that puzzle is about this big compared to what we really are beyond the scope of all that. So when you finally realize that it's all bullshit and that none of it makes sense and that none of it is even real, or if it was, there's no way to prove that it's real, or even if it's kind of real, it's been embellished so much because of this phone game, essentially, that history has been interpreted by and told and taught and shared, and everybody thinks, hey, this is how we receive information, this is how we process information, this is how we share it, through telling stories, through telling narratives. And when you finally get to the place where you realize, okay, that's bullshit, that is totally fucking bullshit. Excuse my language. People who know me know I don't swear this much, but I love this topic and it's really funny. And it really, like, when you get it, you're like, oh my God, okay. So I realized this very early and I was like, okay, but everybody's doing it and everybody thinks it's normal. So if I don't think it's normal, what would I do? Who am I going to be in the face of all of this indoctrination, in all of this institutionalization that everybody's just buying hook, line, and sinker? And, oh yeah, did you hear this and that? And they're just perpetuating stories and narratives and stories and narratives. And a rumor starts up and all of a sudden it's a story and it's a narrative. Everybody's just like groping onto it and they think it's so real and it's so good. What does the individual who says, you know what, there's no way that that is true? Where does the individual find what is true? Is it even possible in a world that has seemingly spun so far out of the balance of natural law? Is it even possible? Yes, it is absolutely possible. And as all the spiritual sages, as all of even quantum sciences, as everything is, and so many people are saying, it is really about shutting off the analytical or objective mind, the one that thinks it knows or relates to life as being some story or narrative. That has got to go. But everyone's like, I can't make it go. My mind just forms stories and it goes in circles and I just get stuck in it. It's like, oh, no, okay. It's okay. I know. We have all become addicted to the telephone game and we just go around doing this like it's normal. So how do we get out of it? Think of you, the being that you are, not in terms of a story, not I'm Seth, this is my life, this is what happened to me, I did this, I did that, and oh, I messed up here, I did okay here, and none of that. Think of you more as not a story or a narrative, but more like a song, okay? And when I say that, more of like a song, in that the energy that is animating your being, that is causing your heart to beat, that is way more intelligent than who you have been conditioned to be according to this telephone game, institutionalized, indoctrinated ways of thought and being. That energy that you truly are is alive and well inside of you. It is causing your heart to beat. It's causing every anatomical function within your body to happen at or faster than the speed of light. And there aren't even tools in science that can measure the subtleties of consciousness itself. So they don't even go near it. They don't even try to, because there isn't anything. They know it's real. Obviously, we're here, we're alive, we're experiencing this. But because quote unquote science, which has become the new religion, that so many people are like, yes, everything needs to be scientifically proven. Because science doesn't pick up the subtleties of consciousness, we're kind of left in this like, well, what are we? Are we a story? Are they what they told us? Are we just these beings that have become addicted to regurgitating stories and narratives that other people have recycled and passed down to us? No. What we are more likely, in order to know ourselves as we truly are, in resonance to what one might call truth. Okay, and the truth has many layers. There's layer upon layer upon layer of truth, all eventually relating to a greater truth that none of us are really able to know with our human senses. However, we have the ability to align our human cognition with these internal states of being that become activated when we, as an individual, say, you know what, I'm going to turn off the analytical mind. Okay. And I know as hard as that can be, it's an addiction. So it takes a little bit of practice to turn it off. But you turn it off by just getting into states of calm, getting into heart brain coherence, by breathing rhythmically, by learning to love the fact that you have been gifted a sacred life that is animating your being. And the more you cultivate and come to know that miracle within you and how it animates this human form, and how the greatest scientific instruments on this planet are not able to measure the subtleties, you become aware that you are the scientific instrument that is able to measure the subtleties of consciousness. And when you start to realize that you truly are that, then you start to, like magic, you intuitively start to become aware of how to guide that intuitive recognition of what it is you really are in a way to activate these dormant perceptual energy centers that are everywhere. They're all through your physical body, they're all around your body in your energy field. And the more you zoom out, okay, that's one way of turning off the analytical mind. The more you zoom out, the more all of this stuff just starts to come into focus. And when it does, then suddenly you begin to remember what it is you really are and who you think you are, according to all of this institutionalization, all this indoctrination into belief systems that are all essentially revolving around the telephone game, become obsolete, because now you are living your life in accordance with something that is way greater than any and all of it put together at once. And when you feel it coming to life through you, and you become aware that you are a perfect living geometric field animating a human form, and you love that and you trust that, then that living geometric field begins to activate itself and influencing the way your body works, the way you feel, the way you think, the way you express yourself in this world, everything. And when that happens, you begin to return back to the state of divinity, the pure divinity that you always truly have been. Not this story game, belief system, narrative ridden being who's just perpetuating disbelief out into the world because you don't know who you are. You don't know what you are. All you think you are is what everybody else has told you you are. But that's not what you are. That's who you are. That is your ego. What you are is whatever this energy is that is animating your physical being. And when you, as the person who you believe yourself to be, come to know yourself as what it is you truly are, the energy that is pulsing through all your veins, then you create a relationship. You create an integration between this energy form that you already are and this human identification that is there, where the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the unconscious, meaning that which you don't even know doesn't know, start to fill in all the missing pieces, all the blank spots, everything that causes you to live with the belief system that all these stories that everybody taught you are all that's real, it's all that matters, all this history, mystery, his story, her story, its story. There's no more stories. You become more like a song, a frequency rich, tone filled being that is in alignment with the living geometric field that is actually animating your human being. And when you are in harmony with that, you know how to conduct yourself in a way, in right action, you could call it. And again, that's not a judgment, it's not right or wrong action, but there is a way that you can conduct yourself when you know you are in alignment with things as they truly are, not as they appear to be. So that I wanted to just like riff on that and go off on it. I've wanted to do it for a long time, and I'm going to answer questions if anybody has any about it. And we can pick this apart to infinity. It's a powerful, powerful concept. But I don't know anybody who hasn't gone to public school systems that hasn't either tried the telephone game or been institutionalized or indoctrinated into all these belief systems that they need to pursue some kind of Western dream and attain all these external things in order to find fulfillment, which is a fucking bunch of bullshit. Because the real, sorry for my swearing, the real fulfillment comes when we love this energy that is animating our being, this living geometric field. Then we have a reprioritization of values where we are like, oh my God, the love of this energy is more important than anything that anybody has ever told us matters about this world. And then from that place, the next thing is forming a relationship with your physical body in alignment with this energy that is animating it. And then from there, it's forming relationships with other beings that have also prioritized the awareness of this energy form. And that, Kay, is how we begin to change the world from the inside out. And it's the only way we're going to experience lasting change that will truly make a difference. All the political fighting, all the shenanigans, all of that stuff without this is just fighting fire with fire. It's using the same level of thought that created the problem to keep perpetuating the problem. But when we willingly say, you know what, I am going to surrender who I believe myself to be based on who I was taught I was according to other people's agendas, and I am going to live as an embodiment, as this ineffable, indescribable, living geometric field that is causing my heart to beat and all of the physiological, anatomical reactions that take place in my body. When I make my conscious awareness and connection and relationship to that number one, then from that point forward, I'll be able to live in a way where I'm going to be much more discerning, because the more you cultivate that within you, you know when others are doing it around you. And it's a rare breed right now, but there's a lot more of us coming out, and we're finding each other and we're learning each other, and we are collapsing this totally out of tune way of being, but it's perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. Everything is exactly as it's supposed to be. And we are here to alchemize the most ugly aspects of it. But it's important that we get these power centers turned up and working so that we have the ability to look at this darkness, to look at all these things that everybody's afraid of, because we don't want to bypass it, but we do want to face it. And we want to face it from a place of true empowerment with what it is we really are. So that's what essentially is going on. And I just had to share it because the telephone game was such a pivotal point in my own evolutionary growth. And it's so absurd and it's so funny. If anybody goes back and listens to this, and if you've been exposed to the telephone game, and when you just think about like, oh my God. And I just think about my social studies teacher's face when I said, look, you just proved to us that nothing really makes any sense. Like, it's all just a story. And he's like, oh, no, 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 but history's correct. I'm like, how? How everything that you show us in these history books like don't mean anything? How could it? How could it? You just demonstrated to the entire class. And he's like, no, no, I didn't. No, that's not what happened. I'm like, yes, it is what happened. You just don't want to admit it because you can't imagine what else there is outside of it. So that's the thing, is people don't want to imagine what is outside of these stories and these narratives that we tell ourselves, because it's scary. It's the unknown. We don't know. But guess what? We're going to have to face it eventually. And if we do face it now, we're going to be able to face it in a way that is loving, that is beautiful. And trust. If you don't trust me, find it within yourself to trust yourself. And if you resonate with anything I say, then listen to it long enough until you can feel what I'm referring to within yourself, and then listen to that, and don't ever listen to me again. Because when you feel that within you and you turn on all of these power centers and they ignite, you become aware of what it is you really are. And who you are doesn't really matter that much after that, unless what you are becomes integrated into who you are. And then from that place, when they do, if that's what happens, you are able to go forth in this world fearlessly, because you are guided by something that you know is greater than all the stories, than all the narratives, than everything. And you are ready to bring this state of being into all of that. And you have full faith and confidence in it. So if anybody has any questions, now would be. So yes, brothers, school's teaching us to look at our differences instead of our similarities. Yes, and that's it. That's essentially what it is everybody's teaching us to look at our differences. And how stupid is that? Because, and again, your comment's great, but like, right? Like, I'm just saying, like, out here, like, we as a species share more similarities. Doesn't matter if we're white or black or Asian, or I'm sorry if I'm not politically correct, and I don't care if I am, because fuck politics. And again, I say this very lovingly. We are a species that has infinite potential dwelling. I don't care what somebody's race, color, creed, religion, sex is, or sexual preference. None of that matters. We all have within us these glands that are dormant, that when we willingly choose to activate, suddenly start to light up with the coherence of the universe, with the pulse of energy that is causing the heart to beat. And when it becomes what we have chosen to reprioritize, it wakes up all of these dormant perceptual energy centers. And suddenly we start perceiving energy, start perceiving reality a lot more like energy and a lot more like a song than a narrative. And that is beautiful, because that song teaches you how to live in a way where this isn't physical, this isn't solid, this is just the appearance of it. And it's not a story, and it's not a narrative. It is a song, it is an emotion, it is a feeling, it is a harmony, a rhythm, and that is even only just barely touching what it is. It is frequency. It is a living geometric field of the highest order. The closer you get to it, the less you, as the person you believe yourself to be, exist, and the more it reveals itself as it is. And God bless you, or whatever, if you want to say that, the more you consciously integrate that into your human personality, the more you express that through your human personality, the more that integrates into this person you believe yourself to be. And if you prioritize that above and beyond anything else, this is the energy that creates universes. It gives birth to stars, to galaxies, to universes. If it can do all that, it can manage the details of your life. Trust it. Trust it. I understand so much, but still fight with ego every day. Yes. Yes, of course. Of course you do. And you have every right to, because you have been fighting with ego just like I have, just like the entire world has. The entire facade, if you want to call it, that everybody has been fighting with, or dealing with, or struggling with, or resisting against, or reacting with, is this belief that I am Seth, I was born, this is my mom and dad, this is why I'm here, this is what my life purpose is, and this is what I'm supposed to do based upon what all these people have told me. So you never had people, and everybody who told you or is telling you what to do in all these institutions and all this stuff, they don't know what they really are. They just are focused on who they think they are based upon who other people told them they are. And this has been going on for millions and millions of years. That this did not originate on this earth. We are not from this earth. It didn't originate on this star system. Okay, look at where we are. Go to micromagnet.com. Okay, and there's a thing, and look at it, okay, and you'll see where the Earth is just in reference to the galaxy, to the Milky Way we are. Okay, the solar system itself is one tiny little spiraling fractal on this incomprehensibly massive giant arm of a galaxy containing incomprehensible numbers of giant rotating spiraling arms that are all fractaled within and of themselves, and the entire galaxy is alive. That's more in alignment with what we are, and this has been going on for more than millions of years. We are the combination of all kinds of hybrid species all bred into one, and so we don't know what we are when we are perceiving everything from the outside in and listening to what everybody and everything tells us we are. But when we say, you know what, enough is enough, I'm drawing a line in the sand, I love this energy that is animating my being and causing me to exist in this form, even if I don't consciously know what it is, I'm going to keep cultivating a relationship to it until it's everywhere, because most of ego is we're trapped right here, right? We're stuck between our eyes. We're essentially in this area. But the beautiful thing about this, and modern science, which is a religion that's only been around for 3 years, it's nothing, has proven a lot. It's beautiful. It's especially the quantum sciences. They have proven that consciousness itself is not localized only to the brain. It's most people think it's in the brain, but it's animating the entire being. But because we have evolved to perceive ourselves as separate from the rest of our body and everybody around us, we think everybody else is separate. We think the whole universe is separate. We believe, because we were told that there isn't life in the entire galaxy or in the universe, when the reality is it's all alive. It's one big living system. We feel lost, and we have every right to. And that creates an inferiority complex that is the root of ego. It is where we lose our power. But my friends, I am telling you, it is time to get that power back and fuck all these dark suppressors. Fuck, and not fuck them in a fuck them evil way. Like, we are here to alchemize that, okay? There is no us and them. They are us and we are them. But we are here to regain our power by activating, by getting out of our head, by getting into all these different glands, these energy centers, our organs. When you get into all of them and you activate them from a sense of heart-brain coherence, essentially loving them, then all of a sudden they start to turn on. And eventually sorry, this is a poor analogy, but eventually they turn on and they become nuclear. And when they become nuclear, that means your human body becomes the technology that modern science is looking to create but cannot. You literally become the power plant that is creating free energy that can be used for everything. You wake up, you remember what every single bit of everything you have ever known is truly for. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of life cycles, depending on if you're a new soul or an old soul, all come to the forefront of your awareness. You recognize it all, you remember it all, you catalyze it all, meaning that your power centers have been activated enough and you look right at it, no matter how fucking ugly it is, no matter how scary it is, and you say, you know what? I am here as this being that believed itself to be imperfect, and maybe I am imperfect, but you know what? I know that on the other side of what I fear most is something that I love and I trust. And the more you keep tuning into that, this force that is outside seemingly all of these ugly things that everybody's so afraid of eventually starts to imbue itself into you. Okay, we're not physical beings. We just think we are. Okay, it appears like it's flesh and blood. It's not. It is a living geometric field vibrating at such a high frequency that it takes on the appearance of physical matter, and it's not. It is a vibrating field. So when you begin to change this 3D narrative, story focused into institutional based belief systems that keep you stuck in a state of, oh, I'm me, separate from everybody and everything, and you turn on all of these dormant perceptual energy centers that are in every single human being alive, then suddenly there isn't anybody or anything or any Illuminati or anything or any government that is able to hold power over you. And in fact, once all those things start to be turned on, you actually go out and seek them, because we're not here to bypass. We're not here to say, oh, I feel great and everything's beautiful and it's wonderful. No, we're here to power up. We're here to get strong. We're here to be the reflection of what we deep down know is possible. And then we go out and we, by example, we exemplify the potential that so many have seeded within themselves, but won't consciously admit it because there aren't enough living examples that can do that. We can do that. We are that. That's what we are made of, and that's what we are doing here, and that's what I do. So, that's how I get out of ego. Is ego, again, okay, is a belief system. It's a state of mind. It's a conditioned state of mind based on stories and narratives that have gone on for countless human years that are incomprehensible to us where we're at. And it's because of that that we don't even really need to pay it much mind. Practice getting into a daily state of heart-brain coherence. Make that, like, literally generate love from within you, because this is something that nobody teaches us, is that we have the ability to love ourselves, to love the fact that there's some unknown to us force that is animating our being. And when we start to love that force, it starts to love us back. In the beginning, okay, we're not separate from it, but in the beginning we feel like we are. And it's so beautiful because in the beginnings you feel like you are creating a relationship with it. And the more you create a relationship with it, the more you rise in love with it, the less you care about, oh, I need somebody to make me feel complete. Oh, I need more money. I need a bigger house. I need a better. You don't give a fuck about any of that. You are like, oh my God, I love you. I love whatever this is. And all I'm interested in is being a devotee and living every day in every way that I can. I don't care how the world looks. I don't care what. I don't care if it's all going to pot. I am going to do the best I can with every breath I have to breathe slowly, to feel lovingly and openly, and let that feeling just spread throughout the entirety of my physical being, head to toe, all around that. And the more you do something like that every single day, out of nowhere, okay, you're confronting all the things that have kept you in your little bubble, in your little story. And eventually that bubble fucking pops. And when it because in the beginning you don't know what you're doing. You're like, oh my God, is this even real? You're listening to people like me. You're like, this guy's fucking crazy. Like, you're going through all these things, which is normal. You're gonna go through that. But if you want to settle for what they're offering for us at this level, sorry, I don't. When I look around at all this stuff, no. We are destroying this planet. We're destroying our own bodies. Like, hello, how is this working? It's not. But there is something that does work, and it is harmonizing our egoic perception of who we believe ourselves to be with the energy that is animating our being. When we harmonize those two together, we form a marriage. Thus, this idea of the divine and masculine and the divine feminine coming together to form this divine union. And that is when we start to really wake up to this potential. So, oh, thank you for all the love. And it's crazy because I know all these things, but I refuse to think about them and act on them. Yes. And this is what most people do. And this is how it is. And this is what we're up against. And it's serious because from all outward appearances, okay, if you look at all this from the way that we're most used to looking at it, it seems pretty hopeless. It seems like, oh my God, how is this ever going to change? Like, because there's all these people just being who they think they are. They're all but oblivious to any higher states of being, even though these higher states of being are all there actually is compared to this temporary, limited state of being that everybody's so addicted to believing is all there is. But by trusting that it's there, and by saying, you know what, and also here's another thing, like there's no rush to do any of this. This has been happening for countless years. It's been happening for so long. So even though it feels like, oh my God, we got to make this happen, this is, like we don't got to do it. This is very much a personal choice. This is the evolutionary process of each of our soul going through its own journey and its own process, and it's also doing it collectively. And it's all perfect. It's perfect. We don't need to save the world. We don't need to do anything. All, if anything, and we don't even need to do this, we can choose to say, you know what? I don't like the reflection that I'm seeing in this world, and I'm going to do something about it. And the way that I'm going to do something about it is by loving parts of myself that nobody taught me how to love. And guess what? Now you have me, you have others, you have beings like us who have done this enough, who remember how to love what we really are, not who we think we are. Okay, we love who we are, but only because who we are has become the faithful servant of what we are. And it's because of that that we're allowed to experience this much more fulfilling love than we could ever imagine, or that the world ever planted its seeds of Disney fairy tale like, nonsense into us. And it's nonsense because really the prince gets the bride and they live happily ever after. What we have in store is way greater than that. But it's up to us to become way greater than that. And only you can do that if you choose. So, are there any more questions? Is there anything at all? If not, I'm going to log out of this. Let me just look on this device here to see if anybody had anything that they wanted to say. All right, perfect. Same people who are watching. Okay, yes, Riders here. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you for tuning in, you guys. And again, I hope it was clear that the telephone game is something that affected all of us, and we get if we want to really evolve as individuals and as a species, it's up to us as individuals to stop listening to all these stories and believing all these stories and start forming greater connections to that which there aren't really stories for. And if we do that, we're able to form these new, what I call open-ended belief systems, where we have this breakthrough, or we have this feeling where we're like, oh my God, I practiced what he said and I felt this harmony, this like geometry that aligned perfectly within me and around me. And oh my God, he was right. It was there. I am that. And the more you have these little breakthroughs, you start to form these new states of being that represent the new human that is being birthed through this servile, submissive state that most people have come to accept as normal. Not normal. So that's it. If anybody wants to ask more questions, they can below this, and I'll answer them when I can. I love you guys. I would love it if people would take this to heart and get into their heart and open it up and make it align the heart with the brain. Heart brain coherence is the gateway to whole body coherence, when all of the other organs of the body start to get synchronized to the heart. When you can sustain that for long periods of time, then the ego starts to, the subconscious, all the stuff that's buried in there that keeps the ego alive, starts to come to the surface. And the harmony that you feel when you're in a sustained state of heart brain coherence is so strong, and it's such a high frequency that it causes all that deep subconscious and unconscious stuff to come up. And when it comes up, you're just like, oh my God, do I want to keep indulging in it? Or do I want to allow it to be consumed by this greater frequency that I am now sustaining within myself? And usually you choose the latter. And so bit by bit, all of that old stuff gets alchemized into the person you believe yourself to be. And you start to perpetuate a new state of being that is not physical. It is powerful beyond all the nuclear bombs on this planet. It is, you got to feel it to believe it. So that's how I do it. That's how I've done it. That's how I keep bringing myself back. And no matter what comes up, this is all I do. I keep getting into this state, and it's really just calm state. It's like deep breathing. It's feeling the heart, and I sustain these states, and I'll sustain them sometimes for hours. Thoughts come up, I alchemize them, I allow them to become part of this greater coherent field, and then suddenly I can start feeling the field around my body. And there's lots of old subconscious patterns and belief systems and things that I've accumulated from this life and other lives. And there's a sweet spot in between the appearance of my physical body and the energy body that I truly am. And when I'm in it, I can move and manipulate matter, but it's not me that's doing it. I'm just able to do it in alignment with the truth of what I am, in integrity, in a way that causes it to become synchronized with this higher coherent state that I am consciously choosing to be a representative of. And the more I do that, the more I face it, the more it gets integrated into all of this, and the more I become a living example of what it is I truly am. And if I can do it, everybody can do it, because there's no difference between me and anybody else, except for maybe I've got more hours doing this. This is a priority to me above any and all priorities. So I hope that helped. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything at all, please leave them below. I love you. Take care of yourself. Love yourself. Be grateful you're alive. Be grateful for everybody and everything, even the ugliest, most horrible things in this world, because they are teaching you this. And at some point, you're going to see that and you're going to realize it. And when you do, you're going to be like, oh my God, I could have been this thing. You can be that thing now. All right. Till next time. See you soon.